Grab your copy of Florida Man vs. Hogzilla, available now at floridamancomics.com. We're bringing back funny books, y'all.
Guys, welcome. It's Black Friday, November 24th, 2023. I'm here with my friend, my great guest, my very good friend, Mike Barron, the amazing writer. Here he is. How you doing, Mike? How's it going today?
Doing good, thanks.
All right. Good to see you. So you haven't had Thanksgiving yet, right? You're doing it today, you said. There was a reason your family had to move it to Friday instead of Thursday. What is your go-to at Thanksgiving? You have to pick one and one only. Turkey, stuffing, potatoes, ham, mac and cheese. What is the one thing that's your favorite item at Thanksgiving?
I got to go with ham.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get ham today. We'll probably get turkey, but as long as it's a meat protein.
Sure. Mine's stuffing. I love stuffing and homemade gravy only. You know this. I grew up in a food family. My dad's been a gourmet chef for like 50 years. On my mom's side, we owned a restaurant for over 50 years. So it's all homemade at my house. I don't like that gravy out of a can or a jar, nothing, So we had a feast yesterday. It was very nice. Very nice. So we're having a good time. How's Colorado treating you, bud?
Oh, it's great. Although we got snow last night, I had to shovel us out. The only place we're going, though, is my sister's place.
All right. Well, it's like 72 here in San Diego. So
I'm heading to Florida next weekend.
And speaking of Florida, that's what you want to talk about today.
Yeah. The research.
So that trailer animated, was that animated by Kelsey?
The thing with Gary riding the hog and ending up in a thermonuclear explosion, that's Kelsey. And then the one after that is Chris Brawley.
Okay. I'll have to check that one out too. So do you want to tell us about Florida Man? I know you had a successful first volume, but for people that haven't heard of it yet, tell us what Florida Man is.
Well, it's possible there are people who have not heard about Florida Man, but the reason I wrote this book is because every time I went online, there was a new Florida Man headline. And the one that sticks in my mind is Florida Man claims syringe found in rectum is not his. Now, that's fairly typical, and there are thousands of those headlines, thousands of them. But I wanted to create a character with whom readers could relate. Gary's just a redneck living in a trailer down by the swamp. He's got a hair-triggered temper. He likes to get high. He likes to get stoned. He's been in and out of trouble with the law his whole life. But he's got a heart of gold, and he'd give you the shirt off his own back.
He'd give you the wife beater off his own back.
That's true, and he wears them. And every Gary story has the same contours.
Okay.
From rags to riches, to rags to riches, to rags to riches.
That's very funny, actually.
Yeah, he's always looking for the next get-rich-quick scheme. And the new graphic novel starts with a shady character hiring Gary to smuggle 100 red-kneed tarantulas into the country. And Gary says, well, how are we going to do that? He says, you fly to Mexico City. My agent will give you the suitcase. Don't worry. It's sealed. You check it through. They can't get out.
Very cool. So here we have a little bit of the art. Let's check this out. That's a great wraparound cover. Beautifully illustrated and colored. Love the perspective on that little bit of fisheye look.
Kelsey Shannon.
Yeah, great job there. Great job. And then these are some of the interior action pages.
Yes.
So he's run into some 1970s Kung Fu cinema style. Some women, I don't know if they're good or bad characters, but...
that's Crystal in the forefront. She's wearing a Bruce Lee jumpsuit from Game of Death.
Sure.
And so's her trainer, Delilah, who's an Indian shaman.
Oh, boy. I love the name Crystal. It is very living in a trailer down in the swamp kind of name.
Yeah, that was the name of my first wife.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. And here he is. Here's Gary, right? Gary with the sword.
That's right.
Oh, my gosh. So he just gets, it's just over the top adventure. Now, it isn't a cartoon. It is realistic, but it's how would you describe the tone of it for people who really thinking about this?
Wildly funny. I guarantee you will laugh out loud. I've had so many people tell me things like I had to pull over to the side of the road. I was laughing so hard on audio, obviously. I couldn't see. And My wife kicked me out of the bedroom. She was trying to sleep, and I kept laughing out loud. And I've had hundreds of reviews of those. Those are for the novel, and all the novels are available on Amazon. But the graphic novel is only available from us at baroncomics.com.
Right. Right. So currently you guys are funding on Kickstarter?
We're on Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and Fund My Comic.
All right. And how are those doing? It looks like so this bar here, where you've raised 15,000. Which one is that? Is that Kickstarter? Is that Fund My?
That's aggregate.
Oh, that's all of them. Okay. So you guys have raised enough to publish. So you're fully funded. But of course, we'd like more. This is a great book. Mike is a great writer. Mike has won the highest award in comics years ago. He's been a great writer for decades in this industry and just a great writer altogether, novels and everything. The Eisner Award. He's a multiple Eisner Award winner for Nexus back in the old days. But yeah, you guys definitely need to check this out. The Florida Man thing, that's hilarious to me. You know Adam Carolla, right? I mean, the great radio personality.
Oh, of course. I haven't met him yet, although I would like to.
But I remember on his radio program, he did a bit back in the 90s and the early 2000s when David Allen Greer, the comedian, would come on.
Right.
They were good friends. And it was a game I heard them play a bunch called Germany or Florida. And he would read a terrible or just super bizarre news story. And then the panel on the radio show had to guess, was this story from Germany or Florida?
Right.
And so you were not the first to notice the Florida Man thing. I feel like in America, the two places you go, if you're I'm not going to say a scumbag, if you're a man living a atypical lifestyle, maybe you're running from the law. I feel like the places they hide out are Arizona and Florida. Do you agree with me on this?
Well, certainly on Florida, a lot of people are disappearing into the wilds of Idaho these days.
Oh, really?
It's a long way to go.
Idaho Man versus Florida. The team up comic is coming soon.
Yeah, and Wyoming ranchers have thrown their hat into the ring when their neighbor's cattle broke down the fence and went into their pasture. They retaliated by tattooing dicks on the cattle and sending them back.
Oh boy. Well, that is leaving your mark, as they say, up in Wyoming. Now you don't live far from Wyoming, obviously up there in northern Colorado. I like Wyoming. Do you head up there a lot at all, or no? I used to go to Cheyenne.
But, I've been up there a couple of times. About a half hour away. I go to Cheyenne occasionally for con, and I've ridden my bike up through there when we were doing a big wild ride through the West.
I don't think I've ever been north of Cheyenne. I would go up to Cheyenne plenty with my grandfather when I was little to deliver tortillas from his Mexican restaurant, but I'd never been north of Cheyenne. It's windy as hell up there.
It is, and it's beautiful country when you head west.
Right.
We went all through the mountains up into Montana, Red Lodge. Spectacular ride.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go up that way and go to South Dakota and go to the Mount Rushmore, but I never got around to it. But have you been up there to Rushmore?
Not many years. I did when I was a wee kid. As you know, I grew up in South Dakota.
Right.
But the last couple of times I was there, I never got that far north. I have some friends who live in Hot Springs, and I would go visit them. And then we'd take off on bikes, and we usually head west.
Very cool. So tell us about the Florida Man and Joe. Pitch me on this. Why? Aside from all the great stuff we've heard about how funny and crazy it is, who are the fans of this? Who is this perfect for right now? If they're gonna buy it or they know someone that this would be perfect for, who is this perfect for? This story.
Anybody who's looking for a great read, wants to be entertained. Entertainment has always been job one. Now the thing about Florida Man is it's not a comic sweet spot, because we all know what comic fans want. They want superheroes, monsters, right, horror, time travel, and science fiction. And I do that. And in fact, our next two projects are both original Nexus graphic novels illustrated by Kelsey Shannon. But Florida Man, as I said, I don't choose my stories choose me. And after I saw the 25th Florida Man headline every time I went online, and I said, okay, I get the message. I'm going to do it. And so I wrote my first Florida Man novel. And my publisher, Wolfpack, does mostly hard-boiled crime and westerns, and I didn't expect them to publish it. So I asked the publisher, Mike, could you recommend somebody who would take this? And I sent it to him. He says, we'll take it. And it's my best-selling novel so far.
Really?
I guarantee you will laugh out loud.
No, Mike is a great comedy writer. I said you had the bit of the year last year in your Nexus, which is a
Oh,
very
I know what you're going to
serious
say.
space opera. And there's a scene, I'll explain it to you guys listening. Nexus is traveling like through a wormhole or hyperspace.
That's right.
And the communicator in his ship goes off like he's receiving a message. And he says to himself, but I thought it was impossible to receive a message in hyperspace. And when he opens the message, it says, we are contacting you about your vehicle's warranty. And I couldn't stop laughing because everyone gets those idiotic phone calls. Your vehicle's warranty has expired. And it's like, I don't know who you are. Stop calling me. Stop calling me, you scam artist. So I thought that was fantastic that even the cosmic hero, Nexus, he could not escape these scam artists, fake insurance companies, or whatever it is they're up to.
Well, even the darkest drama has to have flashes of humor. No story can be entirely grim. There are some, I mean, like All Quiet on the Western Front. There's no humor in that I recall. And it still succeeds, but it's not a feel-good movie.
No.
No, but Shakespeare understood that even the harshest drama has to have flashes of humor, and every one of his plays does.
Well, yeah, that reminds me of a little kid learning that you put salt in cookies when you made them. And that made no sense to me, like when I was like 6 or 7 helping grandma make cookies. But when you think about it, it's like, well, it can't just be pure sugar. It's going to be terrible if it's just sugar. So yes, when Mike expertly writes a story and it's great entertainment, that's because he knows how to balance that grim whatever with the little laugh here and there. Or if it's over the top like Florida Man and it's crazy fun, you're going to add some serious danger and stuff to it too, to balance that sweet and salty to make it a perfect combination. So,
well, there is pathos. There is pathos in Florida Man,
sure.
and you care for the characters. I think that's a key to great entertainment. The reader has to care about the characters before he turns the page, because the most important question in fiction is what happens next. And if the reader doesn't care, he's not going to turn the page. So you have to make the reader care. And the main way you do that is by creating a compelling, likable character that you want to follow.
Right. That they have something in them, things in them that grab the reader, the character. I heard the creators of South Park, there was a clip going around the internet, very short clip, but it was so poignant, talking about story structure. And the way they look at it is the logic of the story is this happened and this happened, therefore this happened, and not just this and the and a little kid tells a story and then this and then this and then this, and there's no like reason to turn the page because there's no logic. And the other thing they said they would do is this happened and this happened, but this happened. You know what I mean? So I think those two ways to keep making the scenes move along is an important thing to do with your characters. Give them that tension, give them those problems, give them how their personality is going to react. I think you do a great job with that stuff. So I think this will be exciting. And I think Florida Man it's a great concept because it's a very American kind of story. I've only been to Florida once, but it felt very American to me. I don't know how else to explain that. Have you been to Florida much, Mike?
Many times. They say, well, aren't you from Florida? I thought you were from Florida. No, I'm not from Florida, but I have been there many times. And I'll be there in December in Fort Myers for the Southwestern Florida Comic-Con, Sunday only, December 3rd. And I'm bringing a whole bunch of Florida Man with me.
Good. It's a home game for Florida Man. We'll see if you should be able to sell a lot of these down there.
We'll see.
A lot of the customers might come up to you and recognize themselves in one of these graphic novels.
Maybe. I think we can all identify with Gary a little bit. Gary's constant struggles are usually with the law and with invasive species.
Right. Now, what is the story of Hogzilla, the creature? Does it play a major role, or is it just the name of this story and or do you not want to say?
No, I'll say
it's a giant hog.
It is a giant hog, and it's been devastating this upscale housing community in which Gary used to live. In the first issue, he wins the lottery. He wins $6 million, and he immediately spends $5 million on this huge mansion in this upscale community. And then he blows the rest of the money on drugs, and he has a wild party, and they're partying all the time, and people are shooting off guns. And the police call the cops, and the police come, and they say, you got to shut this down. And Gary, who's coked to the gills and half drunk, says, I don't got to do shit. And he shoves the cop, and then the police throw him to the ground. And his wife, Crystal, who just turned professional wrestler, sees it, and she's in much the same shape Gary is. So
Oh boy.
she leaps out of the house, swinging a 3-foot long black dildo,
Oh
and the
no.
whole thing is filmed and goes on. It goes viral, and it gets millions of viewers. And she becomes known as the Black Dildo, and that's how her wrestling career starts. The promoter gets in touch with her, says, I saw you on YouTube. I'd like to have you fight for me."
Oh
Oh, and
my
if you
God.
show that one cover, if you scroll up,
Oh, up. Let's see.
that one, the yellow one. Okay,
Yeah.
that's Crystal, and you can't quite read what it says behind her for good reasons.
Oh. Oh, I was like, does that say Black Widow?
No, it does
Oh,
not
now
say
I know.
Black Widow, and they can't call her that on the marquee for obvious reasons, so they call her Steely Danielle.
Okay, Steely Danielle. That'll do in a pinch. So I would say the Florida Man is mostly an anti-drug PSA story for children.
You
Do
could
not do
look at
drugs.
it
Do
that
not
way.
end up like these people.
That's true.
That's yeah. Drugs are bad, kids. So yeah. So Florida Man's going well. When can people? Let's say I I go to baroncomics.com or .net. Sorry, baroncomics.com.
BaronComics.com.
I go there right now and I order it. I click one of the links for right here. Click one of these, Indiegogo, Kickstarter. You head right there. When can I expect this book if I click it today?
Well, it's going to the printer next month.
Oh, okay. So is it done?
Yeah, it's done. You can ask anybody who's bought any of my crowdfunded books. We deliver on time and sometimes ahead of schedule.
On time? What a concept for independent comics.
Well,
What a
I know a few
concept.
others. I know a few others who do it as well.
Oh, you're talking to one of them. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right, Gabe. That's right.
It's rather important to deliver the books eventually to the people, you know.
And if you
I like
haven't
to
seen,
keep it within the same president as they ordered it, you know, unless we're at the end of an election cycle or something,
that's right.
you know.
And Truth, Justice, and the American Way is a stunning book that people have
Thank
seen.
you.
It's
Thank
just
you.
stunning. And I can't wait to get Dean Cain All-American Hero.
Oh, Mike, you don't even know how good that's coming out. We got like Jackie Chan style action there. We have like the tone I went for is Raiders of the Lost Ark. So you have that man and woman where they're and then Romancing the Stone too, you know, Kirk Douglas and Kathleen Turner. That was the tone that Dean and I spoke about when we started working on this. So there's stuff in there where there's that playful romantic tension and she's almost getting him killed and stuff. And there's a great scene I had a lot of fun writing. I'll show you a couple pages real quick.
All right.
Where she accidentally makes a helicopter take off and he ends up hanging on the skids on the bottom and they're trying to get away from some bad guys. Can you see this?
Yeah.
And so she is screaming, doesn't know how to pilot this thing. He's yelling at her, pull it up, pull it. She's like, it doesn't go up. And he's like, it goes back. And she's, oh, and then there's like Jackie Chan style action. And we're having these are pencils. These are not finished inks.
Wow.
But yeah, we're having a blast on this thing, a real blast. And we add a lot of that Indiana
Are you
Jones
telling me
stuff.
that's not inked?
That was not inked. They were Akion's the illustrator, and his pencils are like almost done. His inks, he just breathes on them and finishes them. But that's how he lays out about like that. He's a master. He's a master illustrator. He gave me a huge hand on Truth, Justice, American Way, giving me like layouts and stuff like that. Remember how Carl Potts did layouts for Jim Lee on The Punisher and all that? Akion is a master illustrator for 30-something years. So he helped me on Truth, Justice with a lot of layouts and stuff. He's a great guy and a workhorse. You know, he turns around 10 pages in a week and a half. Finished. Wow. Inks, you know, and they're gorgeous. So, yeah, I love working with him. And we're already up to page 70 on inks there. So we're doing really good on that book.
How long is the story?
Right now, it's going to be a little bit. I advertised it at 80. It quickly jumped up to 110. And then, you know, I write the Marvel method, you know. So he'll write back to me and say, okay, he's all, you know what? I think we need an extra page here. And I'm like, that's fine. So now we're at 113, but I think we're going to end up around 120 or something like that. I don't want to end on a weird odd number like that, but it's the length of a 2-hour movie. That's how I wrote it. You know what I mean? I think it had about 13 major scenes in it, you know, and it had the classic 3-act structure, and it feels very much like Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the tone I went for. So it's action-packed, high-flying, no sex, no cursing, but it's thrilling. It really is thrilling. Oh, here's the scene I loved. Sorry, I wanted to show you this real quick. And you guys can go to bigmancomics.com right now and you can order that. We'll get back to Florida Man in a minute, but I wanted to show you this, Mike. So she's piloting this helicopter by accident because she was hiding in the helicopter from those bad guys that he was fighting, and she accidentally makes it take off. And look at him here. He's hanging on the skid, and she's flying so low, he's almost hitting like air conditioners and stuff.
Right.
And he's yelling at her to pull it up and this and that. And I write my dialogue after everything is finished, like the Marvel style. So there's no dialogue. There's just page and panel descriptions. But one of the lines I have written for this page already is, and she's a Latina. They're down in Mexico. She says, "If we die, I'm going to kill you." You know, stuff like that. So, and look at this. She swoops him just feet above the big Cadillac the bad guys were down in, the two main thugs. So he's hanging on this helicopter, barely misses them as they're getting away. And he ends up climbing in the helicopter and they get away. So really fun action-packed stuff like that. Trying to, like what you said, and I never forgot this. The first goal is to entertain. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it fun. To me, the second goal that's almost important, it's like a 1 and a 1A. You tell me if you agree with this, is the message. And to me, my messages are always about morality and uplifting the human spirit.
You can't go wrong with that. But my number one rule is show, don't tell. My number two rule is show, don't tell.
Right.
Same
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you can never just tell them, and this is exciting, and like just be exciting. Don't tell them it's exciting.
Well, there's a wonderful book called On Moral Fiction by John Gardner, in which he argues that if good isn't rewarded and evil isn't punished, the reader will feel cheated because there has to be a moral order in the world.
Yeah.
And now there are always exceptions to this. Cormac McCarthy and Pete Dexter have both written compelling novels about despicable scum of the earth, but we read them because of their seductive narrative voice, and it's interesting. But
are you a fan of Cormac McCarthy?
I'm a fan of many of his works, not a fan of others.
I love him. He is my favorite author, and I think he's the greatest American author. I don't think anyone can touch him. I think his work is insanely grim. I have a theory that all his books take place in hell. But he writes so well. He writes so well. It's astounding. He just had 2 new books this last year, Stella Maris and The Passenger. Did you read them yet?
Not yet. You know, he died recently.
He just died. He died on the same day, I believe, as I think the Iron Sheik. I'm not even kidding. That pro wrestler. I think they both died on the same day or something. I remember reading on Twitter that he passed away. But yeah, Cormac McCarthy's been my favorite author forever. My favorite book of all time is Blood Meridian.
Oh, man, that's in the basement. I read about a third of it, and I thought, oh, this is grim, Jim. I may have to pick it up again.
But it's so compelling because it's so well written.
That's
and
true.
I think Cormac McCarthy, his trademark phrase, if you've read his novels, if you read enough of them, there's a phrase he uses over and over and over, literally word for word. Do you know what it is?
What is it? No.
It'll always be a cowboy on horseback, and he'll say, he leaned and spat.
He leaned and spat.
Like he'll lean and spit off the horse. Hundreds of times in all his books, he leaned and spat.
I do the same thing with my biker novels. Whenever somebody asks Josh, what'd you do to your bike? He takes a deep breath. And he recites all the changes he made to the motorcycle.
Nice. Yeah, but Cormac McCarthy, I absolutely adore his work. It is brutal. I don't think it glorifies evil. I think it exposes it. You know, at the beginning of Blood Meridian, there's like I think he added it later. There's like just this addendum, I guess, where it just goes into some research of a skull at the University of Missouri or somewhere, and it has like, you know, basically axe wounds in it, and they theorize the skull is, 100 or 200,000 years old, and it's just basically a commentary on the brutality of man. You know what I mean? And I don't think he's glorifying it. I think he's just showing them, like, look at this, like kind of a scientific perspective. Because there's stuff in Blood Meridian where he talks about war, and war had always existed, and it was waiting for man, its ultimate author or something like that. And do you remember the Judge Holden from Blood Meridian, right?
It's been years, Gabe,
he's the leader of the evil gang, and he's beyond evil. And it really is show don't tell. Like just the things he says are so bizarre and grim, and there's hinting that he may be the devil himself. You know what I mean? And he's such a psychotic person. But there's a line that stuck with me that the judge says when they're sitting around the campfire, the judge, all his little bandito gangsters, the kid who's kind of doesn't know if he wants to be in the gang or not. And the judge tells one of the guys, he writes down this book where he makes note of everything and everyone that exists. He draws little pictures and he writes down the name, and they're talking to him about that. And he tells one of the people, that exists without my knowledge exists without my consent. And when I heard that, I thought, if that doesn't define the most evil kind of mentality, I don't know what does.
That's great.
Have
you seen the movie Nefarious?
No, I haven't. I heard it was fantastic. And when I was on the Babylon Bee in August, one of the men that interviewed me, Jarrett LeMaster, he was in that. It was a side role, but he was in that movie. But I need to see it. I've heard it was fantastic. But tell me about it.
Well, that's another portrayal of a person who may very well be Satan. It's a two-man show, basically. And when the psychiatrist is called to the state prison because the man that he's talking to is scheduled to be executed that night, and they have to have a psychiatric evaluation before they proceed to make sure that he's in his right mind, because it wouldn't do to punish him if he doesn't understand what's going on, which I think is crazy. But anyhow, and the guy claims to be Satan, and moreover, he claims that his psychiatrist will commit 3 murders before the day is over.
Wow.
But it's a tour de force by Sean Patrick Flannery.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard is fantastic. And I heard it exposes a lot of the modern woke agenda that just seems to preach evil for the sake of evil,
Not so much, but there's a movie on Netflix, is very funny, called Old Dads.
Oh, with Bill Burr.
Yeah, did you see that?
No, I don't have any of the streaming because I don't like what they preach. I don't want to give them money.
You'd like this. That's all I can say.
Okay. Yeah. I've kind of turned on Bill Burr. I liked him about 12, 13 years ago before everyone knew who he was. I know that makes me sound like a hipster, but to me, he's turned to like left wing, like Biden supporting, woke, and like he's gotten soft. He's getting politically correct, and he used to be the most outrageous, non-politically correct, and now he's taking that Hollywood money, man. I don't like him anymore. I'll take your word for it on the movie, but I don't like the way that guy's turned.
I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep an eye out for that.
Right.
I may have to write him a harsh letter.
Right. Send him a letter. That's what my buddy in high school used to say when we'd complain. Like, send him a letter.
So we used to say.
So you've been doing comics for how long?
40 years.
40 years. And is it the only real professional job you've had? Or did you do other writing before?
Well, my first job out of college was smoking dope for the government. I answered an ad in the back of the Boston Phoenix looking for volunteers to live on a hospital ward for a month, smoke government-grown marijuana every day, and take a battery of tests. It was just like college.
Like how many ding-dongs can you eat in one afternoon or something like that?
No, it was a cognitive test. And then we had group discussions and a psychiatrist would take notes. And when I got out, I wrote that up and I sold it to the Boston Phoenix. And,
wow.
And soon I was their music editor. And
that's right. You used to interview rock stars that would come to Boston and stuff
like that. That's
right.
And then I moved back to Madison in 1977. I took a job at an insurance company from which I was eventually fired. I've been fired from every job I ever had. But I've been lucky enough to support myself for the past 40 years by doing what I love, which is entertaining people, making up stories.
Well, let me ask you this. We both love comics. I met you in 2003 or 4 at the comic book store in Fort Collins. I saw your comic, The Detonator. It was like sort of Punisher stories from Image Comics that you were writing. And I thought maybe he needs help. Maybe he needs help coloring. Maybe he needs help with something. So I went home and drew a picture of The Detonator. I took it to you on my laptop. You said, I got a job for you. You got to draw issue 3, and you've got 3 or 4 weeks to do it. So
that's right, Gabe.
Right. So, and I've been in it ever since. So thank you. You look at the modern state of comic books. I'm not going to pull any punches here. If there's anything you don't want to talk about, you just tell me. And because I would never force you to say anything about anyone or anything. But you look at Gail Simone and the Whisper Networks and all that awful stuff. And if any of this makes you uncomfortable, just tell me. We'll stop talking about it. But you look at all that
Gabe, as you know, Gail tried to destroy my career.
Do you want to talk about that at all, or is that
No,
not
I
something
don't. But I will say that if you go to Bleeding Fool and you enter Gail Simone, Mike Barron in the search engine, the story will come up.
Okay. Well, I know she's been not a great person for comics at all. Marginally talented, a big complainer and a troublemaker, and alleged leader of the Whisper Network to basically end and destroy the careers of anyone to the right of Mao Tse-tung. You know what I mean? And
there's a book coming out about the Whisper Network.
right.
By,
Generation Simone by Parker Posey. That's her nom
right.
de plume.
Penny Parker.
Penny Parker. Parker Posey's an actress. Too many P's here. Pumpkin Pie, Peter Pan. Too many P's going on right here. But yeah, I hope that book comes out and does expose the people that have burned. It's kind of poetic justice that they've burned down the very industry they tried to control. Instead of just coming in and playing with the toys nicely, cleaning them off when you're done and putting them back when you're done, they come in and try and act like all communists, like all leftists. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, they didn't create shit. It's all me. I'm a genius. Let me really show you what it is. That's the part of these people that really disgust me. Like Tom Taylor changing Superman's slogan. That's such disrespect to the people who came before you, as if you're better, as if you know better.
That's what launched your career into the stratosphere.
Right.
But, the real problem here is the editors that they hired and the writers that the editors hired.
Right. Because they're activists, that's why
they're not entertainers. And it's okay to have a message, a socially conscious message.
Absolutely.
Just look at To Kill a Mockingbird or The Grapes of Wrath, two of the greatest novels ever written. They're entertaining and they have a strong social justice message.
Absolutely.
There it is. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it at all to have any sort of perspective in writing. You can write well about any topic, left wing, you can write pro-communist, whatever, and you can do it well if you're a good writer. But the point is, when you try and lead secret gossipy gangs and private Facebook groups to destroy amazing writers like Mike Barron, destroy their careers because you don't like who he voted for, that goes right back to the quote that I was telling you that the devil himself in Blood Meridian said, that exists without my knowledge exists without my consent. People like Kelly Sue and Gail, you need their consent to think, to vote, to write, to draw. You need that. That's what they assume, that you need their consent. And we see what it's done to this business. It's destroyed it. It really has. It's a shame.
I don't blame individual writers, no matter how much I disagree with them. I blame the companies that hired these editors.
And why do you think the companies are afraid of them, though? Why do you think the companies are afraid of these people?
I don't think they're afraid. I think that they're honestly woke. And what is woke? Well, as you know, it's an excuse for malice. It's a thin veneer of civility over malice, because their real urge is to hurt people they don't like. I always say this about the left, that after they kill everybody who doesn't agree with them on everything, they'll turn on each other. And we see it happening every day.
Right. Yeah. It's an absolute viciousness. Last November, I read for the first time ever Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged.
It's a big book.
Have you ever read it?
Yeah, I have.
Amazing. The only thing I disagree with her about is atheism. I am a Christian. She's not religious. But the dialogue and the character and the personality she writes for the woke leftists in her book, it sounds like it was written Mike, it sounds like it was written last week. It doesn't sound like it was written in the 50s. She's talking exactly like they talk now.
Human nature doesn't change.
No.
And if they only taught history in the public school system at universities, people would realize that there's a bigger picture than this shallow propaganda that they're being fed. And as we know, people go into academe for the same reasons that politicians go into politics. 1, to get rich. 2, to enjoy special privileges, tenure anyone. And 3, to hurt people they don't like. And we see it all over where Christians are given failing grades or booted out of class.
Right.
Or where Jews are attacked on campus.
That's wow. Yeah, that's we won't go too heavy into that. We got to be careful with YouTube. But what is going on the campuses with the current conflict is insane to me to see that. That is insane, So, and you're a Jewish man yourself, I found out later in life that I'm Jewish too. Did you know that? I thought I was my grandma's dad was a Syrian Jew. So she was half Jewish, my grandma.
Oh,
But
congratulations,
my Mexican
Gabe.
grandma. Huh?
Welcome to the tribe.
Shalom. But I guess if you have it on the matrilineal side, it's legit, right? So my grandma's half, and my mom is a quarter, then I guess I'm an eighth. But I'm basically just a Mediterranean, because my grandpa's like Spanish, Basque, and all that. You know, that's northern Spain, and then Mexican, Native American, and then my grandma. This is my mom's side. My grandma would be like Native American, Mexicans, now Syrian Jew. I find out. And my dad is Libyan, but those are like Berbers and Egyptians. But his mom is Turkish. She had the tattoos on her chin from like World War I or whatever, the Ottoman stuff. And so it's basically the Mediterranean, Spain, you know, probably, and then the Greeks and the Carthaginians that used to rule Libya, the Italians. So I'm a Mediterranean with Native American blood, I guess. So there you go. And a little bit of Jewish. I like a little nosh. I like a little deli, you know, sometimes. So because Beron, is that Iberian? So that would be that's an Iberian Jew, right? Those
Russian.
is that Ashkenazi?
You know, we got a quiz here.
I
have to look it up. I have to take that ancestorship test. But my grandparents on my father's side were Russian Jews.
Okay.
And my grandmother on my dad's side was from Spain. So I guess she was Sephardic.
Right. Okay. So yeah, there's Sephardic, Mizrahi, and Ashkenazi Jews, right? Those are the three main diaspora. So, wow. So yeah, we're just a couple Mediterranean guys trying to make some books, you know. So I don't know. What else do you want to say about Florida Man and upcoming projects? You have Nexus coming up with Kelsey. Kelsey's illustrating 2 Nexus books. Is that what
That's
you're saying?
right? And the art is phenomenal, just phenomenal. It's mind blowing. After that, we're doing Sherlock Holmes meets Captain Nemo, and that is completely illustrated. It's going to blow your mind. They say, "Do you want it quick?"
Can we say who illustrated that yet, or
Richard Bonk?
Oh, okay, sure. Bonk he's a solid guy.
But he did Private American. But who knew that he was waiting for steampunk his whole life?
Really?
Because when he got this book, he exploded. I'll send you some pages from it. They're just mind blowing.
Awesome.
I think it's the best work he's ever done. We're all excited about it. And then we're doing Thin Blue Line #2, and then we're doing Private American #2. And then next, it may be the Badger graphic novel.
That's awesome. Well, I think that the weirdo leftist that pushed you out of Marvel and DC did you a favor. I know that's cold comfort because at the time it was probably tough. But the career renaissance you're having right now, come on. You know?
I'm happy about the renaissance, but when I fell out of the publishing industry, it was through nobody's fault but my own. I didn't know how to sustain a career. And I'm a much different person now and a better writer. But it wasn't political at all. I stopped getting work in the mid-90s, and it was before wokeness took over every major publication. But there's no question that there is a blacklist, and there are a number of us on it. And all I have to do is tune into Comicsgate Kings to see who they are.
Right. I mean, keep your blacklist, guys. Making indie comics is so much better, you know. So I'd be like John Hancock. Write my name extra big on that blacklist, please. They couldn't pay me enough to go back to those things. What about you? No, with the art, because listen, we are artists. You and I are both writers, and then I'm also an illustrator, penciler, inker, colors. Would you ever want some 25-year-old editor telling you how to write ever again in your life?
No, I wouldn't.
Never.
But I have to say that when I worked for Marvel or DC, I can hardly remember any editorial interference whatsoever.
Right. Oh, I'll tell you, I was at DC just recently. I only left 2 years ago, and it was only editorial interference all the time. Everything. I don't know how those writers work there without going insane. You know, they're having us redraw things, recolor things. They're rewriting dialogue. I would tell the editor this, and I won't pull punches on this. If you were any good at this, editor, you'd be the writer or the artist.
Man.
Hey, that's a slap in the face of their ego. But you know what? They asked for it by being that disrespectful to the talent. They did ask for it. If you were good enough, you'd be the creator because it pays more and it's a lot more fun to do. You're not good enough. That's why you're an editor. So get over yourself. But I think the editors, the modern leftist ones, it's that thing you said about the professors and the politicians. They want to get into the position of power because it's a culture of resentment, and they resent the talent, and they want it to be them. Mike Barron didn't really write this. I told Mike what to write, and he just wrote it, but it was me.
I have to say that my editors back in the day were men like Archie Goodwin and Denny O'Neil. And Denny certainly introduced social issues into Green Lantern and Green Arrow. But Denny was a writer first, and he understood the importance of entertainment and story structure. And they weren't mean. The stories were not nasty lectures like they are today. The dialogue was interesting, and he knew how to show, don't tell.
Right. And that was the old way that I heard the editors used to be. They were talented former writers or still writers in their own regard. And they were good editors. I'm talking about the new, college graduate, the masters in English literature, and they're 24 and they're telling a 50-something-year-old man how to write. And it's like, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about here. And they have no resume for professional writing themselves. It would be like a football coach in the NFL who'd never even played high school football himself. He would have no business coaching. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Do you agree with this concept? Because I tell people this all the time. There's epistemological knowledge and there's technical knowledge. And I really think epistemological knowledge is mostly worthless. Book learning, academia, that's great. You can memorize something. But the only real knowledge in life comes from actually doing something.
That's right.
Because you're a devotee of the martial arts. Are you still doing Karate West?
I stop in there all the time, but last March I had reverse shoulder surgery.
You got your shoulders put on backwards?
Yeah, that's right. And
you clap your hands behind your back now?
I can, but I couldn't for a long time. So it's going to be a little while before I return. And I'm worried that having fallen off and not done it for 5 months, that I'm going to gas out. And I expect that I will gas out. And I've been trying to stay busy. I swam all summer. I ride my bicycle every opportunity I get. And I hope to get back, but we'll see.
Well, my point of asking about Karate West, could you be as good as you are at martial arts by just reading everything you physically learned? If you read every book by every master about your martial arts and you knew them backwards and forwards, you could write them with your eyes closed. You could recite them chapter and verse. Could you go out into the dojo and do one move if you'd never physically practiced it?
Well, if there were nobody there for you to do the move on, but martial arts has to be taught by an instructor in person.
But I mean, if you had never physically even done them by yourself, how could you know how to really do them just by reading?
You couldn't. I mean, there's a technique to everything. You think you're throwing a punch, but you're not just throwing a punch. There's how you hold your fist. It's how you hold your elbow. It's what target you're choosing. It's moving your head and getting the guard up. It's just a whole lot to it.
Well, let's finish on that. We've been going for a little while here, but I want to incorporate what we just spoke about into what you're saying. Let me open back up I'm going to find the baroncomics.com and bring that back up because, okay, so how many years have you been a writer longer or a martial artist longer?
I've been a writer longer, but I have been studying the martial arts for 40 years. Show the video if you can, Gabe. The video up at the top.
Okay, let's see this.
There it is, right there.
Can you hear it?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let me bring it up this way.
All right. Nope.
No, okay, well, what I have to do is present the screen a different way. But what I wanted to ask you while I'm doing this, what I wanted to ask you is how has studying martial arts informed your writing? Does it help you write better fight scenes and stuff like that?
Well, it sure does. And many people have remarked on that. One of the reasons I went into martial arts was because I was picking up master kung fu, and I loved it at the time. But even I then knew that they weren't showing any martial arts; they were showing movie poster poses, and I wanted to show the martial arts in a exciting, dynamic, incredible way.
All right, let's play this. Tell me if you can hear the sound. Hold on, let me get over to this window and hit play.
Yeah.
There is a creature in the swamps who has survived thousands of years of evolution. It lives to destroy. A mindless, eating, machine. The beast they call Hogzilla.
After his latest get-rich scheme goes sideways, Gary Duba, the quintessential Florida man, ends up with a stash of somebody's high-end memorabilia. His gal Crystal is on probation and preparing for the fight of her life, squaring off against Australia's Queen of Combat. Delilah's got her back in training, staying off rich foods and the nose candy. Meanwhile, Gary and his best friend Floyd have been hired to wrangle a massive, abnormally aggressive feral hog that's terrorizing the swamp and wrecking Gary's old neighborhood. Can they bag the elusive monster swine without destroying Sunshine State? Reserve your copy of Florida Man vs. Hogzilla at FloridaManComics.com. We're bringing back funny books, y'all.
That looks great, Mike. And it's a real antidote to all the woke Captain Marvels of the universe. This is just fun stuff. If you want to have fun and want to have a good time, you have to check out Florida Man. Any parting thoughts on this, Mike? Anything you wanted to let the readers know?
Well, I do want to point out that Charles Bronson has displaced Jean-Claude Van Damme behind you.
Oh, I change those up all the time, depending on the mood I'm in.
All right. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm feeling a little kickboxer too dancing scene. Sometimes I feel like I'll take you to the bank, Senator. The blood. I love what the hell happened to Steven Seagal? Those first 5 movies were good.
I know.
They were really good.
He joined the Nicolas Cage club. Only Nicolas Cage makes better movies.
Nicolas Cage is back as far as I hear. I hear his new movies are crazy, but they're entertaining. I don't know. I haven't seen them.
I loved The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Oh, with that Pedro Pascal guy, right? I didn't see it, but I heard it was really good. So
it's worth seeing. It's very funny.
Yeah. I had never seen Death Wish until about a year and a half ago. And I watched the first 5 of them. I think there's only 5. Those are the most insane movies. They're so terrible. They're really entertaining, but they're grim.
They're cheesy.
What happens to his family and loved ones is like, this is not a uplifting story at all. This is awful. So, okay, you were around then. I know I've been saying I'll let you go. I'll let you go soon. You were around then in the mid-'70s, that malaise, that Jimmy Carter. It was just from the outside looking. I wasn't born until 78. I'm not, you're not conscious of the world till you're 5, 6, 7 years old. So I have no idea, but the Jimmy Carter malaise and all how bad it was. But from all reports, it was a terrible time in America, socially.
It was very rough. But I will say this about President Carter: he has a good heart. He wasn't a mean-spirited man, and he wasn't in politics to get rich, which is something you cannot say about the current occupant.
No, right. Good old Captain sniffs a lot. So sniff up that Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo. It's his favorite scent. But was this, you think, a reaction to the frustration and the rage at that?
Absolutely. I remember being in the theater, seeing it on its first run, and people standing up and cheering when he blew away the first mugger.
Right. Because I think there's a bit of Mr. Kyle Rittenhouse with this, where you were like, they've had enough. You know what I mean? Of the BLM riots and this, and the other. And I when I watched this movie, I could see the parallel then to our world now. Like, oh, people have had an ass full of this, and they're like cheering for the bad guy now. That's how bad it's gotten. Because there's a part in there, I think the first guy he kills, Charles Bronson, he gets an expensive camera on purpose. And he's walking through the ghetto, spinning the camera, hoping a mugger will try. I think that's one of the first guys he gets. And there's another part where he confronts a guy in the basement of some warehouse, and the guy's a hippie that killed his family or so. He's a criminal, a horrible criminal, and he's wearing a big cross, the bad guy. And he asks him if he believes in God, and the guy's like, yeah. He's like, because you're going to meet him. And then he shoots him right through the cross in the heart and kills him. It's insane. Death Wish, guys. They are insane movies. I like them, but they're totally insane. So, all right, Mike. Well, people need to check out Florida Man Hogzilla. Go to baroncomics.com. And I thought I saw also there was a Florida Man Comics, or what's the web address?
Yeah, you can reach them by either method, FloridaManComics.com as well. And speaking of vigilantes, check out Private American.
Right.
The reason I wrote it was because Marvel had destroyed the Punisher, and I wanted to show people what the Punisher should be.
Right. And then Then you got kicked off of Kickstarter with that one, right?
That's right, because of a purple-haired moron who's never read anything I've written, just
Right.
coming out and calling me a racist, and had never read anything I've written. Just
Well, that exists without their knowledge exists without their consent, Mike.
that's right.
They didn't like your idea. This is Richard Bonk and myself. I colored one of the covers.
That's right, Gabe. And thank you for coloring that.
Yeah.
You jumped at the chance. You said, I want to color this.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to work on the Private American. So he was helping our border, which is probably an important thing for a country to have.
We're not allowed to talk about it, though.
Oh, listen, I'm not with that, neither of you. I'll talk about any damn thing I want. I don't care. They can't cancel me. I own my own company, as do you. We're self-employed. So if they want to complain to my boss, they can call me, and then I'll see what I want to do about it. So we'll see how I feel about it. So I don't worship at the throne of Gail Simone. So no thanks. It doesn't work for me. All right, Mike, it was fantastic having you on here. Good luck with the book. I hope people...
Thanks, Gabe.
Guys, I don't hope you check it out. I want you to check it out. Do me a personal favor. Go order it today. Support guys like Mike who will entertain your face off, okay? Well, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe and all that. The links will be in the description. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.